This video is sponsored by MPB, from the makers of Big White. Enter Little White. That's not the official name, by the way, but you heard it here first. This is the brand new OM System 50 to 200mm F2.8 IS Pro, and it's a beaut. I took this seal watching on the Isle of Man and took it for a spin, and here are my thoughts and feelings and everything you need to know. So this lens in full frame terms covers 100 to 400mm, and it has a 2.8 constant aperture throughout. And according to OM Systems handy dandy press material, this is a world first, which I think is really blooming cool. And this is not a rebadged anything. OM System have brought out sort of Sigma-inspired lenses in the past, but this is made entirely by OM System. And I think in terms of design and in terms of quality to expect, it is designed to be the little brother of Big White, which is pretty much the most expensive, most premium lens on the Micro Four Thirds system. So we're talking premium here. So I think the idea is, if you had a fantastic wildlife camera like the OM1 Mark II, for example, and you managed to rob a bank and got Big White and then paired this with it, you would have pretty much all your focal length covered at the absolute highest quality possible. I think it would be best wildlife setup that you could buy. I think it would be insane, but also, yeah, you really probably would have to rob a bank. These are premium lenses, but I think the image quality really does back it up. We'll do a lot of pixel peeping in this video and you can make your own mind up, but I'm very impressed with the sharpness. So here are some of my favourite photographs, and show you unedited and edited. As you can see, I've just added a little bit of contrast hither and thither. These are super sharp. There is no issues whatsoever getting cropped in, and this is a lens that I would have no problems whatsoever shooting at 2.8 all the time if I wanted to. At 2.8, it's super sharp, but it's super sharp throughout in my experience. So this lens is compatible with the teleconverters, and I had both of them with me when I was testing this lens. You have a 1.4 times teleconverter and a 2 times teleconverter. Now the 1.4 times teleconverter, because we are working with a 2.8 constant aperture, it's very blooming usable. The 1.4 teleconverter gives us a 70 to 280mm f4, which in full frame terms is 140mm to 560mm f4 constant. Yeah, there was no way I was saying that without the script. Still plenty fast, still a really usable aperture, and loads of versatile zoom. The 2 times teleconverter I like quite a little bit less. As you can see in the 1.4, everything's still sharp. I could leave this on forever and just use it like as though that was the standard, and it worked wonderfully. The 2 times, I've never had a good experience with the 2 times with any lens, to be honest. I find that while we do get a stupid amount of zoom, my notes, it gives you a 200 to 800mm f5.6 equivalent in full frame, which is crazy. But I think there's a little bit too much of a payoff in terms of sharpness. Now, from afar, these photos are fine, but when you do punch in, you do lose that little bit of clarity that we've paid so much money to get. So for me, I think the 1.4 times is chef's kiss. I think it's wonderful. I actually would have loved to have seen on Big White, the big expensive lens, that has a 1.25 times teleconverter built in to the lens, and it gives you like this clack when you engage it. And it's so satisfying and it's so cool. I wish that Little White would have had a built-in teleconverter, because that would have just been such great value for money and versatile and everything. But as it stands, it doesn't, unfortunately. But if you were to pair one with a teleconverter, I would choose the 1.4. That's the sweet spot for me with sharpness and versatility. The benefit of the 2 times teleconverter is it boosts the macro capability. Now, the macro capability on this new lens is superb. It gives you a 0.5 times magnification across the whole focal length range. And when you put the 2 times teleconverter on, it actually turns it into a 1-to-1 macro magnification. So, pros and cons. And because this lens is a pro lens, we get all the OM System bells and whistles. It has stabilization built in. It gives you sync IS up to 7 stops of stabilization, and let me tell you, that makes a big blooming difference. So I was recently in Iceland with the OM System OM3 and the Lumix Leica 100 to 400mm lens. It's just the one that I own. I haven't got any fancy pantsy big whites, so I've got to use what I've got. The lens itself is lovely, but because there's no sync IS, my god, the little puffins were all over the place in the viewfinder, and it made it that little bit harder to get the shot. With the sync IS, with this, I was on a really rocky boat Like, we started off and it was super chill, and then as soon as we got out, it got choppy. Having the Sync IS and keeping the subjects and the seals and the birds in flight even in focus and smooth in the viewfinder was worth its weight in gold. The Sync IS is blooming brilliant.
Tiny little seals, testing out the stabilization on the rocket mode.
Also, because it's a pro lens, you unlock all the burst modes, so you can go up to 50 frames a second with continuous autofocus on the applicable cameras, so OM1, OM1 Mark II, and OM3. And another pro feature, which works wonderfully with its macro capabilities, is you do have focus stacking as well. I was using some flowers on the Isle of Man to test this out, just handheld, and the results are really, really good. You get a really nice minimal focus distance. How much is it? 0.78 meters. Thank you, notes. In reality, that means you can get pretty close and comfortable with your subjects without being on top of them. And because it works throughout the entire focal length range, it's a very nice macro experience. I love lenses that give you like bang for buck. I love lenses that you can use for several different applications. And with this being like a really nice zoom lens for sports and wildlife, but also having macro capabilities, very, very nice. So let's look at the size and weight of this lens. It's a chunky boy, but it's not too bad. It's just over 1,000 grams, 1,075 grams. Thank you again, notes.
What are you doing?
Oh.
Goodbye. Bye, Marvin.
Oh, wow.
And of course, because it is OM system, it is IP53, weather sealed, dustproof, freeze-proof, all that goodness. You can get this lens very wet, very cold, and it will be absolutely fine. In terms of use, just like Big White, it is internal zoom, which it's so blooming handy. If you don't often shoot birds in flight, you might think that these nuanced things aren't that important, but they do all add up to give you an overall wonderful experience. So going back to my Iceland trip and the puffins with the Lumix 100 to 400. Because it isn't internal zoom, the way that I like to shoot birds in flight is you start off wide, and then as the bird comes round, you try and zoom in and keep the bird in the frame, all being well. Now, because when you're zooming in, the lens is extending, the balance is going all over the place, and that zoom lens is really blooming stiff as well, it's very, very hard to do that at the same time as the bird's coming at you. You do get a couple missed shots. With internal zoom, everything stays balanced, everything is smooth, so you can zoom in really effectively without losing your subject in the frame. It's so good. You get so many more hits this way. If you value a tactile shooting experience, this lens has you covered and then some. It has four preset buttons and plenty of switches for your quick access, so you can change all this stuff without ever taking your eye off the viewfinder. Let me know in the comments what you use these preset buttons for, because I've never managed to set them up in a way that I found massively useful, but I know some people absolutely swear by them. So give me some tips in the comments. Let me know what you use them for. So if you are wooed by this new lens, perhaps it's time to check out the sponsor of today's video, MPB. MPB are the world's largest platform for buying, selling, and trading your camera equipment. So if you want to trade in something, like, my goodness, maybe it's time for me to trade in my Lumix Leica 100 to 400mm for something better, MPB is a great place to do so. You can get an instant quote if you want to sell something, and you don't have to speak to anyone. It's just an instant, this is how much it costs for this condition. Then you just need to box up your stuff and send it over to MPB, and their experts will examine it. I've used MPB personally for buying and selling a ton. I have loads and loads of cameras from them and lenses as well, and I've always had an excellent service from them. In fact, on my Facebook nerds group, I've had people tell me that when they've sold something with MPB, once the experts have checked the equipment, they've actually come back and offered more money for the product. I mean, how cool is that? So MPB are great, very reliable, and they've been a long-term supporter of this channel, which absolutely means the world to me. So I have links for UK, US, and EU in the description, and if you do want to shop with MPB, using my links really does show them that I'm doing a good job. So definitely check them out, and I'm going to go through the differences between the existing 40 to 150mm lens now. So maybe if you have that lens and this new one's caught your eye, perhaps you could sell that with MPB and get this new one. I'm tempted, because I own that one as well. I'm tempted. So we have the 40-150 f2.8 Pro, one of my favourite lenses of all time and largely considered one of the best lenses on the Micro Four Thirds system in general. What are the differences? Is it worth upgrading or is it not if you already own that lens? The biggest difference, of course, is the extra zoom that you get with the new one. You get 150mm versus 200mm, so that is a lot of zoom in Micro Four Thirds terms, a whole 100mm of extra zoom in full frame terms. As much as I do love the 40-150, sometimes it's just not quite long enough. I did take it to Iceland hoping to get some puff-in shots with it, and it was just not quite there. I did get some nice landscapes with it while I was out there and it was lovely, but for like wildlife and birds in flight, it wasn't the one. And when you consider that you have the extra zoom on this lens and you could add a teleconverter, which multiplies the difference again, you've got a lot more zoom with the new lens versus the old one. Both lenses are teleconverter compatible, so they're the same in that respect, but you get a lot more zoom with the new lens. Unfortunately, and it has always annoyed me a little bit, the smaller lens isn't actually stabilised, and when you consider it is one of the more pricey lenses, it's a shame, really. So the newer one does give you Sync IS, and it does make the whole shooting experience a lot smoother. The older lens is a Pro branded lens though, so you will get access to your burst modes up to 50 frames a second, and it is also IP53 rated for your weather sealing as well. The new lens has some fancy pants coating, some fluorine coating, which is really good at repelling water when you're photographing in the elements, and also helps with flares and contrast and all that good stuff as well. And the new lens is much better in the macro department, giving you a 0.5 times magnification versus just 0.2 times on the older lens. But both lenses are blooming great. I've got some excellent photographs with both of them over the time. It's just whether the extra zoom and the extra tweaks will benefit you personally or not. For me, I'm really blooming wooed by both the macro capability and the extra zoom. I do prefer the form factor of the old one because it is a little bit smaller, but then the extra zoom really is very nice indeed. So I think in terms of the differences, there's a lot of little things that all add up rather than it being this big blockbuster of spec. But I am incredibly excited by this lens, and oh, it's long gone back now. It's long gone back. I miss it so much, and I think I might be an early adopter. I think it might be time to say goodbye to my 40-150 and upgrade to this one. I think that might be in my future. So hold on to your butts. What do we think about the pricing? This lens is coming out at £2,999, which is a lot, but it is also a very, 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 very nice lens. And when you consider that it's on par with the Big White in terms of image quality and build quality, it sort of isn't too bad. I mean, you really have to rob a bank for Big White. You'd only have to rob like a building society for Little White. There may be a launch offer. It wasn't finalised when I was filming this video, but if there is a launch offer, I will stick it in the description and you can check it out. And while we're talking about Big White, check out my Big White video next because it's the most beautiful lens ever. And maybe it will convince you to rob a bank with me.